Hi everyone, and welcome to History 131 online. This is for the spring semester. I'm really glad that you all will be joining me as we learn about all kinds of different fun topics. So for this video, I just wanted to get into some of the basics of the class, some of the nuts and bolts. So we're going to talk about the syllabus for this semester, and then we're going to talk about the Blackboard site and how all of that will be working. So to start out with the syllabus, you have your basic overview, and this is in Blackboard. I'll show you exactly where once we get to the Blackboard tour segment of this video. So just remember to review this, make sure that you've looked at it more than once. It's got really important information throughout, which I'm going to get into here. So basically, just really make sure that you have your eye on this and you refer to it often in this class. The last day to drop this course without a grade penalty, as you can see, is March 27th, 2018. I will send out an announcement / email reminder about that. But that's fairly late in the semester, and you will have a good idea of where your grade stands before that date comes up. Faculty information. I am Amanda Zakanis. My office hours are by appointment. My email address is right here. I check my email every 24 hours, sometimes more often than that, especially if there is a big paper or an exam coming up. Now, I do have 2 small children, so I don't stay up super late because they get up early no matter how late I stay up. So I check my email probably about 8:30 or so at night, and then I don't check it again until pretty early the next morning. So if you have a concern or an issue with something and you want me to take care of it and get back to you, the best thing to do is to contact me earlier in the day. So this means don't leave assignments until the last minute. Discussion boards are due Fridays by 11:59 p.m. on Blackboard. Papers are due by that time. Exams are due by that time. Pretty much everything important is Friday by 11:59 p.m. Dates are all over the place. We'll get into that. But basically, if you open something at 11:30 p.m. and you discover, uh-oh, I have a question, I'm not exactly sure what to do here, and I haven't looked at it before now, and you contact me, I'm not going to get back to you until after that's due. So especially discussion boards and paper assignments, you can open those and go back out of those. You don't have to turn something in right away. So be sure you take a look at assignments before they're due so you can contact me early enough that if you have an issue, I can get back with you before that is due. And like I said, I check that email address every 24 hours, sometimes more often than that. So this is History 131, which means it's the first half of the American Survey course. So we're going to talk about pre-Columbian history in America, in North America specifically, until about Reconstruction, which is the period just after the Civil War. This class is, of course, 100% online. Everything's going to be through Blackboard and email. Now, if you need to meet with me to discuss the course, definitely email me for that and we can get together. We could do a phone call. This is a 100% online course, but I'm happy to meet with you and discuss some things if you're struggling or if you want to go over something more closely. But again, being an online course, email is the best way to get in touch with me to do that. So everything on Blackboard is clearly labeled, and we're going to get into that when we go through the Blackboard tour. Everything has dates clearly laid out under week 1, week 2, etc. We've got lecture videos, discussion boards, all kinds of things under each week. So make sure you're looking at every week closely to make sure that you're doing exactly what needs to be done each week. Student learning outcomes include things like learning to read, think, and write historically, critical thinking, continuity, change, and contingency to understand the struggles we face and how they are not unique to our time. Those are the 3 C's: continuity, change, and contingency. Continuity, of course, things stay the same. Change, of course, things change. And contingency are little moments where something could have gone one way and went a totally different way. Those are some of the most exciting things that we'll get into. You're going to ask and answer your own questions, and that's mostly going to be through discussion. You're going to answer questions like through the papers and through exams. We're going to interpret history. We're going to have academic arguments based on evidence. Evidence-based arguments is the key component of this class. You're going to answer discussion board questions. You're going to answer paper questions, and you're going to have to base those in evidence, both primary documents, which is, if we look down here at our texts, Voices of Freedom, A Documentary History, Volume 1, 5th edition. That is your primary sources. That is a book of primary documents, and those are primary, meaning that they are written by the people at the time we are studying. So you have documents by Columbus, you have documents by Jefferson, you have documents by Phyllis Wheatley and Abigail Adams, and David Walker, and all kinds of really important people that were written at the time. And then you have secondary sources like Give Me Liberty, which is your textbook, Volume 1. You also have lectures. Those would be considered secondary sources as well. Now, I wrote these lectures before we started using Phoner for class, which means we used a different textbook. So when I wrote these lectures, I based them on Give Me Liberty. So there's a lot of overlap in several sections. This means that there will be chunks that line up pretty much the same from lecture to textbook. However, there are also several sections of the textbook that do not appear in the lecture, so I would still recommend having the textbook. There are important questions, key terms, other elements, images that Phoner uses that would really help you with your learning. So yes, while the lectures are very close to a lot of the textbook, and that will be changing for a future semester, I do recommend that you get both Give Me Liberty, and you must have Voices of Freedom because those documents are incredibly crucial to the class as well. There will be additional readings assigned, and those are on Blackboard under each week that they are required. For example, the very first week, some folks can't get their books right away or they transfer into the class late. You actually don't need either book for that first week because all the documents and the lecture are on Blackboard to be used for that first week's discussion board. Evaluation methods. So I know this part is tedious, you guys, but we got to get through all the stuff that you need, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear about what's expected of you in this class. Class participation is 20% of your grade. Now, this is mostly by engaging in discussion boards. You'll have a discussion board each week unless there's a major assignment like a paper or exam. So these discussion boards also determine your attendance. You must complete the discussion board and comment on at least 2 other students' posts. Okay? These take the place of an in-person discussion that we would have if we met in a classroom. So it's important that you comment on other people's work as well. Think of these as mini papers. They have their own requirements. Make sure you see that discussion board FAQ before you submit the first one, and I'll point that out to you on Blackboard. Okay, so there are certain elements you need to make sure you've answered the questions. You need to make sure you've used the required sources. There's even a video on Blackboard on how to cite before you do that first discussion board. Okay, and a lot of that stuff is under Welcome to History 131 or under Week 1 where you submit that first discussion board, and we'll go over that when we get to the Blackboard tour. 40% of your grade is exams. You're going to have 3 online exams, consisting of multiple choice, true, false, and short identification questions that are written. Those are all through Blackboard. They'll be on, as you can see very clearly, Week 6, Week 12, and Week 17. This is not an open book or open note exam. None of them are. So please do not use your notes or readings on the exams. This is to test your knowledge of what you have learned up to that point in the class. These tests will make up a total of 40%, as I said. Exam 1 is worth 10%. Exams 2 and 3 are each worth 15%. I like to weigh that first exam a little bit less because each instructor has a different teaching style, right? So you don't know what mine is until you take that first exam. So I like to have that first exam weigh a little bit less. So once you're used to the format, the other exams weigh more and count for more of your grade. Okay, everything in here is designed so that you don't totally sink yourself if you don't do well on one of the assignments. Now, I just said that, but keep in mind these papers right here. There are two papers. They are combined at 40%, which means paper 1 is worth 20%, paper 2 is worth 20%. That's a big deal, okay? So you need to make sure that you take the time to really put in the work on those. The first paper is due early, week 4, and then the second paper is due week 14. Now I have that first paper due a little bit earlier than I would if we met in person, and that is because you will have done 3 weeks of discussion boards up until that point. So you will have already gotten into doing a good bit of historical writing before that paper is due. And they will submit on Blackboard and run through Safe Assign to check for plagiarism. Please don't plagiarism. Please don't plagiarism. Wow, you can tell that I have 2 small kids and don't always sleep well. Please don't plagiarize, okay? It's a lot of work for me, right? So I catch you and then I have to refer you to the VP of Student Services, and it's just, I have to fill out paperwork. It's a lot easier for you to just do the work. You cheat yourself out of, learning opportunities and, writing and working on writing. Writing is a skill you're going to need throughout your life. So please be honest and do those papers yourself. I even have a brief handout, what is plagiarism, if you're concerned that you might not exactly know and you want to be careful about it. Check that out on Blackboard under Welcome to History 131. Late work policy. Discussion board assignments determine attendance and participation. Okay, so late submissions will not be accepted without a documented excuse, a doctor's note, a death in the family, etc. You can't make up the attendance, but you can make up the grade. Papers must be turned in by the deadline given on Blackboard and in the syllabus, right? Late submissions of papers will be deducted 5 points for each day, right? Not class day, like say you wanted to do stuff on Fridays. It's not 5 points per Friday. It's every single day of the week, 5 points off, and that they are late, okay? No late work will be accepted once it has reached 2 weeks past due. To submit those papers late, you again need to have a documented excuse, okay? Tests can be made up with a documented excuse, but late test submissions will not be possible otherwise. Okay, so there's a lot of writing in this class, all right? I want to be clear about that because history has a particular writing requirement like some other classes do, like English. Okay, all evidence must be cited, and that will be class assignments. Okay, do not use internet sources. Your papers are not research papers. You need to use course materials. Everything that you will need for papers is going to be provided for you. Discussion boards, the same thing. Always cite your evidence, okay? And you can use the Citation Builders link if you need help on how to figure that out. It's either MLA or APA, and the discussion boards are just easy parenthetical, and we'll talk about that in that How to Cite Your Sources video on Blackboard. And there's 10-point scale, pretty standard. Your grade center on Blackboard is where you will find everything. I put things in as quickly as I can. I try to have good turnover for grades so that you know where you stand. Each assignment has explicit instructions telling you what the expectations are. Okay, quality of the content is the primary focus. Did you answer the question? Did you support your answer with evidence? Formatting and mechanics do play a role. They're still important, but it's a smaller role than that content and that evidence. Okay, papers and tests will be returned within 2 weeks. Papers sometimes 3, and I'll let you know if that's going to be more like 3 weeks, but I try to stick to that 2-week deadline to turn those around for you. Discussion boards get turned around within 1 week. You'll get comments on using the feedback options in Blackboard. Discussion board feedback will start out as pretty lengthy, and then that will slow down and shorten as the semester goes on and you become more familiar with expectations. Okay, you can click on any of the underlined hyperlinked grades to see more details about the grades in your My Grade section of Blackboard. When I provide feedback for assignments, you'll find them in this area. I will comment directly on exams to make sure you get detailed feedback on your work as well. Critical success strategies, be sure to check your email regularly. Okay, be sure to check Blackboard regularly. For example, one of the documents in that week 1, the Columbus letter, you can't access that link directly or any of the other History Study Center links directly if you're not on campus. Those instructions on how to get to that are under week 1 in that section where the Columbus letter is. And I can't tell you how many emails I get asking me how to get those. And then I tend to send out an announcement following up with instructions on how to get to that stuff in History Study Center after I've already posted it with that Columbus letter, right? And then I get more and more emails asking me how to access that stuff. Okay, so be sure to check your email. I send those announcements out as emails too, so you should be able to see them in email. Blackboard announcements, I'll let you know what's going on. We'll chat, once a week or so through Blackboard announcements and emails. Make sure you check your email once every day or two, especially, if there's inclement weather. I know we're online, but if there's enough, it will affect us. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff pretty quickly. So it really helps to read everything in the class on time. Spend the time you need to work studying and on the discussion boards. Don't start a discussion board at 11:30 if it's due at 11:59. It will not come out well. And I'll be able to tell, right? Okay. Lecture outlines are provided on Blackboard. You can fill it out as you watch the lecture videos. The script for the lecture notes is also on Blackboard. Okay. So everything from the tests come from the key terms that you can find on those lecture outlines that are in the lecture notes. Okay, so there's nothing on the test that isn't already given to you. When you're talking about things in the discussion boards, be sure to use respectful language about groups, individuals, and fellow students. Comments and feedback given to students should be constructive. Harassment and inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated. We can disagree, absolutely. There are a lot of hot button topics right now when we talk about history and link it to the present day. Tempers may flare, attitudes and passions may run high. I get that. I love when people get excited about this stuff. I'm excited about this stuff, and that's awesome. But we can't be disrespectful. We can't use inappropriate language when talking to other students. You can't call your classmates names because they disagree with you. Base your arguments and evidence, right? And you can disagree all you want, and maybe the other person's opinion will show you something that you didn't think about before. That's the great thing about a human conversation, okay? Let's be respectful and we'll be constructive at the same time. Like I said, plagiarism is not tolerated. Please don't do it. If you need additional assistance or have any other questions, contact me. I cannot stress enough, contact me. If you're not turning assignments in and you're struggling and need help, but you're not contacting me, I just think you don't care about the class and you're not doing the work. That happens sometimes. I'm not psychic. I don't have psychic powers. So be sure that you're emailing me if you have issues, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. Again, we have in-person, we don't really have in-person stuff because we're 100% online. We could do a quote-unquote face-to-face meeting like Google Hangout or Skype. We could have a phone call. We could even meet in person. But this all starts with you emailing me, okay? Attendance is taken weekly in the class. So be sure that you show up and you do that discussion board. That does count as your attendance. If you miss 2 weeks, that's fine. Once you miss that 3rd week, you will be dropped. Okay, it's right here. Okay, so 2 absences is fine. You could miss a discussion board and a paper. Now, I wouldn't recommend missing a paper because, boom, that's 20% of your grade. But then if you miss another discussion board, that's 3 weeks and you're out. Okay. Be sure to stay in contact with me. If you're missing a discussion board because your kid is sick or you're in the hospital, if you can get me a documentation, like I said, you can submit that discussion board late. And you can't make up the attendance for that, but you can make up the grade, right? Basically, it all comes down to contact me, okay? Student concerns, here are the steps for how to deal with that. If you have an issue, if you think something isn't quite the way that it should be, if you feel like you've been treated unfairly, email me first. We can talk about it, right? You're an adult, I'm an adult, let's have a conversation, okay? And then below are the other steps to go through if that doesn't pan out, okay? But I'm hoping that everything can be resolved through conversation, right? We're adults, let's have a conversation. So email me if you have issues. So that is your syllabus. It is under the syllabus link on Blackboard. It is also under Welcome to History 131. So I've put it in multiple places for you to find.